The childhood images of an innocent brother and sister grinning in front of the camera painted a deceptive picture. Reality was far less harmonious. The sensitive Prince Charles and the unyielding, rules-driven Princess Anne couldn't have been more different, and their relationship reflected that. While their public personas radiated royal unity, behind closed doors, tensions brewed for years. One unforgettable moment, however, underscored the divide between the two. It all unfolded in the unforgettable year of 1973, when Princess Anne made a decision that would cement her reputation as the family's fiercest royal. Anne, who was busy planning her fairy tale wedding, had the entire calendar spread before her. Literally, every day was at her disposal. And yet, she chose November 14th, a date that already belonged to someone else. This was no ordinary day. This was the day her older brother, Charles, the Prince of Wales, would celebrate his milestone 25th birthday. Why that day of all days? The question buzzed across newspapers and breakfast tables nationwide. Could it be mere coincidence? Or was it a deliberate and rather icy power move from Anne? Even the most loyal royal fans couldn't help but murmur about the shocking timing. Those closest to the family whispered, was it revenge? And after all, just a few months earlier, Charles had snubbed Anne's love life in his classic biting way, muttering to friends she'd marry her horse if she could. And while Anne brushed it off publicly, her decision to claim his big day as her own certainly raised eyebrows. From May of that year, when Anne proudly announced her engagement to Captain Mark Phillips, rumors swirled that Charles wasn't all too thrilled to share his spotlight. Known for his reserved personality and constant yearning for approval, the prince had quietly expected the royal machine to pull out all the stops for his quarter-century celebration. Instead, Anne's wedding plans derailed those hopes. Some asked why the queen didn't step in to prevent this awkward clash, but Buckingham Palace remained silent. To make matters stranger, the ceremony was slated for a Wednesday, interrupting the middle of the week. Of course, the day swiftly became a public holiday across Britain, allowing the nation to revel in the festivities. However, amid the cheers and applause, it wasn't hard to see the irritation written all over Charles's face. Already nursing feelings of inadequacy within the family, it was no secret that Andrew was rumored to be the Queen's favorite son. Charles faced yet another blow. Princess Anne, the only royal daughter and unapologetically strong-willed, made no concessions. Charles, sources say, was told to grin and bear it, letting Anne bask in the spotlight, a concept the future king quietly resented. Anne, the queen of contradictions, had no doubt found her perfect partner in Captain Mark Phillips. The two met under the most glamorous of circumstances, an equestrian championship in Mexico. Known for her fierce competitive streak, Anne was already an accomplished rider for Great Britain, and Phillips was no slouch either, having won Olympic gold with his team in the celebrated three-day eventing competition. While Mark wasn't a nobleman, his achievements in the equestrian world and Anne's obvious adoration were enough to win over the Queen's approval. In May of 1973, Anne triumphantly flashed her engagement ring for the cameras, a stunning diamond and sapphire that showed Mark wasn't just a man of the stables. The wedding details swiftly followed, and Anne was deeply involved in every element, including the design of her own bridal gown. Rejecting contemporary trends, Anne opted for a dress that could rival any royal wardrobe in history. Inspired by Tudor designs, the gown came with a dramatic silhouette, voluminous sleeves, delicate pearl embroidery, and a timeless corset fit tailored to perfection. She made her grand entrance at Westminster Abbey in a charming glass carriage, leaving spectators speechless. Adding to the historical feel, Anne wore the dazzling Russian fringe tiara, a family heirloom first crafted for Queen Mary in 1919. Her bouquet featured sprigs of myrtle, continuing a cherished family tradition started in the 19th century by Queen Victoria herself. As for the groom, Mark Phillips was dressed gallantly in his military uniform. Though unconventional by royal standards, their union seemed to captivate the masses. And so did the ceremony, which had another groundbreaking feature. It was the first royal wedding ever broadcast in color. With over 500 million viewers from around the world tuning in, the event's splendor was truly next level. Crowds gathering outside the cathedral erupted into cheers for the bride and groom, but interestingly, Prince Charles wasn't entirely forgotten. When the heir entered the scene, a few cheeky onlookers belted out, "Happy birthday to you!" While it was a moment meant to bring levity, some speculated it stung more than it soothed. Looking back, it's clear that Princess Anne's wedding, though undeniably grand and historic, created a ripple effect that highlighted the complexities within the royal family. Charles's 25th milestone was overshadowed by Anne's bold decisions. Whether it was an accidental clash of schedules or a calculated move of sibling rivalry, one thing became clear. Royal life was never as idyllic as those childhood smiles suggested. Following the grand wedding breakfast at Buckingham Palace, where the royal menu featured delicacies like lobster, partridge, and a luxurious serving of ice cream, one particular centerpiece stole the show. The wedding cake, an extraordinary creation, wasn't just served, it made an entrance worthy of its grandeur, wheeled out before an impressed crowd. Towering at an astonishing 5 feet and 6 inches, the cake was designed to match Princess Anne's exact height. A whimsical yet thoughtful detail that captured everyone's attention. The masterpiece had been in the works for weeks, meticulously prepared to perfection. For no fewer than 28 days, the cake had been lovingly soaked in brandy, ensuring it was rich and flavorful before being expertly adorned with fruits and cream. Its 5 majestic tiers were nothing short of a triumph in the world of confectionery art, dazzling both in size and presentation. At its summit stood a figurine that had tongues wagging. A female jockey clearing a fence with her horse, a clear nod to Princess Anne's lifelong passion for equestrian sports. Royal enthusiasts couldn't help but see a cheeky wink to Prince Charles's infamous quip about Anne being willing to marry her horse if it were allowed. No detail was left to chance. This cake symbolized Anne through and through. Yet, lurking behind the spectacle of the grand wedding day was an unconventional decision, one that broke royal tradition. According to insiders, Queen Elizabeth II had offered Captain Mark Phillips an earldom before the wedding, a customary move to elevate the status of someone marrying into the royal family. Surprisingly, Mark declined the title, marking a sharp departure from royal norms. The unexpected consequence? The couple's future children would become the first ever untitled royal descendants, a rarity within the monarchy. While Princess Anne naturally retained her own royal status by birthright, her children, Peter and Zara, would grow up outside the bounds of royal titles. Known simply as Mr. and Miss, their lack of aristocratic designation caused quite a stir at the time, and even today, it remains one of the more unusual elements of Anne and Mark's union. As the wedding festivities drew to a close, the newlyweds set sail on the traditional royal honeymoon aboard none other than Britannia, the royal yacht that had become a signature feature of post-wedding getaways. Like nearly every other aspect of their nuptials, the honeymoon was governed by tried-and-true royal traditions and showcased the carefully polished image of the family. Protocols were observed to the letter, ensuring not a single eyebrow was raised among royal watchers. To the public eye, it seemed destined to be a storybook marriage. But as the years passed, the fairy tale didn't quite unfold as expected. Beneath the reserved poise of royal life, cracks in the relationship began to show. By the late 1980s, Anne and Mark's marriage had quietly reached a breaking point. In 1989, the couple officially separated, and 3 years later, in 1992, they made the split permanent by finalizing their divorce. It was not merely a tremor, but part of a larger turmoil in the royal household. That year, famously called the Annus Horribilis by Queen Elizabeth II in her candid Christmas address, was riddled with scandals and heartbreak for the monarchy. Anne, true to her tenacious character, wasted no time in moving forward. Just 6 months after her divorce from Mark Phillips, the princess stunned royal followers once again by remarrying. However, her second wedding could not have been more different from her first. Gone were the fanfare, glittering jewels, and televised event. There was no parade nor lavish white gown. Instead, it was an understated and private affair, far removed from the grandeur of her earlier walk down the aisle. Princess Anne's life has always reflected her strong will and penchant for breaking the mold. Her dedication to her passions, her unshakable resolve, and her resilience in the face of challenges cement her reputation as one of the most formidable members of the royal family. Though her first marriage may not have withstood the test of time, its legacy, from its towering cake to the decision to forego royal titles for her children, remains a lasting symbol of her unique and untraditional path through royal life. If you enjoyed this deep dive into Anne's extraordinary wedding story, be sure to check back for more insights into the royal family. Don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel and hit the like button. Your support makes all the difference. Thank you for reading.